Friday afternoon, March 26th, Seattle, Washington. The intermittent chunks of ice, spitting from the gray sky, pelted the concrete pavement, leaving it sloppy and slick. The freezing drizzle probably meant winter would hang around through the weekend, at least. Not only did the storm shove spring into the background for another couple of days, the nasty weather made for an early dusk. 9-to-5ers started eyeing the sky soon after lunch, wanting only for the weekend to finally get here so they could hurry home. The gloom brought rush hour closer, while traffic began to build up and clog the intersection of 4th and Pike. What with early birds trying to get a jump on everyone else, bumper-to-bumper exhaust hung in the air, while SUVs and little hybrids jockeyed for the same going-home space. The park across the street appeared empty, except for the bundled-up homeless pushing their shopping carts along the sidewalk, or in between hedges, as they already began scouting out the best places to spend the night. A reminder that the brutal cold over the next 24 hours would not be kind to either man or beast forced to be out on the streets tonight. Wind snapped out of the north, the gust causing trash to become airborne and whirl the debris into wet, paper-like dust devils. Street vendors and musicians had packed up right after lunch, as had the panhandlers. Both groups had either wandered into one of the coffee shops to lounge away what was left of the afternoon, or had simply retreated to some inner sanctum, someplace else where they could nurse a strong cup of Java or an Irish coffee to chase away the chill. Several streets away, the teen hookers clustered under an overhang of sorts trying to stay dry. A small, anorexic brunette, who already looked as though she'd gone too many rounds with the needle, hung back to the side. Around her bone-thin shoulders, a tight-fitting, faux red leather jacket didn't look as though it kept her warm enough. Certainly not with the matching red miniskirt that barely came down to her thigh-high, shiny black, plastic-looking, patent leather boots covering her skinny legs. Visibly shivering from the cold, she danced in place as leaves flew around her feet. She took several shaky drags on a damp cigarette until her eyes darted automatically to the small pickup that pulled up to the curb. Because she was closest, and maybe slightly more desperate than the others, she shot out from under the awning, approaching her customer on the passenger side window, eagerly negotiating her fee quickly with the driver, before hopping inside to bask in the warmth of the truck. Not 500 yards from where the young prostitute jumped into the truck, the man waited. He wasn't interested in the young hookers, even if he often used them as a fallback. The teen streetwalkers were far from his first choice. But there were times a man with certain urges had to make do. Today wasn't one of those times. Today he had other prey on his mind. From behind the wheel of his rusted-out blue van, he cruised the neighborhood, up and down the streets, circling the block several times in an area he'd been scoping out for more than a week. His eyes lit on the school, and he checked his watch. Timing was everything. He hoped he'd get lucky as he pulled the vehicle up to the curb to wait. 15-year-old Erin Prescott raced across an open field of wet grass adjacent to Jesuit Preparatory Academy, her flame-red, shoulder-length hair flowing back in the breeze. Intent on getting to spend a couple of hours with Jason Avery at the mall, her mind fretted about how she looked. She hoped her hair didn't frizz up the way it always did in the predictable damp Seattle weather. She hoped by the time she made it to the mall, her face didn't look like someone had set fire to her cheeks. Why did she have to have such wild red hair and the blotchy skin to go with it anyway? Why couldn't she have silky blonde tresses and gorgeous skin, like Mary Jane Pruitt? Mary Jane didn't have to worry about splotches of any kind. Her skin was flawless. Erin's looks aside, a 17-year-old senior with a car had invited her to spend his Friday afternoon with him, which pretty much had Erin floating on air. She wasn't sure why Jason had picked her, and she didn't care. She knew Jason had his driver's license and drove a sporty little BMW he'd gotten for his last birthday. Although Erin couldn't imagine the reason, she wanted to meet